Welcome back to the Collector Car Podcast. Hey, it's Greg Stanley. And as I record this, the Monterey sale is happening right now. So if you're listening from the peninsula or your home and you need my assistance, whether it's bidding on a car, navigating the auctions, or even just getting a little inside intel, I'm here to help you. Now, you can reach me directly, and I'll do everything I can to make sure you leave Monterey with the car of your dreams or at least a good story. So you can reach me at gstanley@rmsotheby's.com or greg at thecollectorcarpodcast.com. Just reach out to me there and I will be sure to be in touch. And speaking of concours, I recently wrote a song called Concours from Coast to Coast that celebrates the glamour, the chrome, and the chaos of being the MC at some of America's most prestigious shows. Now I'm going to play you the first 30 seconds right now, and if you want to hear the whole thing, stick around because I'll play it in full right after today's interview. And what an interview we have today. Bill Rothermel is one of the most recognized voices in the Concours world. He's been the MC of some of the biggest events across the country, from Pebble Beach to Amelia Island and beyond. Now, Bill and I talk about what it's like to keep a crowd engaged, the quirks of Concours culture, and the unforgettable moments from behind the mic. All right, here's a little taste of Concours from Coast to Coast. Then we'll get right into my conversation with Bill Rothermel.
Pack my tux and my microphone, flying first class. This lawn's my throne, from Pebble Beach to Florida shore. Calling out names like an auction floor. Chrome so clean, it could blind the sun. Ferrari, Packard, here they come. Cue the crowd, hold your applause. I'm the ringmaster for rolling applause. I'm the MC coast to coast.
RM Sotheby's is the world's largest collector car auction house by total sales. They are the preeminent market maker of high-quality collector cars and collections, regardless of size or complexity. By working in partnership with the Sotheby's team and its network of 80 offices in 40 countries, RM Sotheby's has established the largest client network of any collector car auction house in the world. Join the RM Sotheby's family by connecting with one of their car specialists at rmsotheby's.com or contact me directly at gstanley@rmsotheby's.com. All right, for this episode, I'd like to welcome a previous guest. You're an OG. You've been around for a while, and you were one of my earliest guests. So, Bill, welcome to the podcast.
It's so nice to be known as OG.
That's original gangster. That's not old
Is
guy.
that what it is? Okay, as compared to old guard. All right, very good.
Well,
It's
I appreciate.
yeah, that was a long time ago, actually. So
Yeah, so if any of my listeners missed Bill's last interview, I'll put it in the link so you can go back, geez, probably 3 or 4 years ago. So I always see you on the concourse circuit. I see you speaking, hosting, emceeing, whatever you want to call it. And we ran into each other at a concours recently. And how do you pronounce that concours correctly?
Northville.
No, that wasn't it.
I'm sorry. That was the same weekend. Sorry. We ran into each other at Kapschaholm at the Studebaker Museum.
Kopschaholm. I always want to say,
Kapschaholm.
yeah. Okay. Difficult.
It was the Oliver Tractor family mansion, which is adjacent to the Studebaker Museum campus and right down the street from what was the original Studebaker mansion called Tippecanoe.
Yeah, and Tippecanoe is a nice restaurant now, right?
It's a restaurant. I don't know if it's a nice one, but it's a restaurant.
You know, it was about
in all the times I've been in South Bend, I've never been inside the building.
So I ate there probably 10 years ago when I was working for Mondelez, and that was on my territory, and I just thought it was cool. And it was good, kind of high-end food back then, but now it's a brewery. So to your point, I really don't know what the food's like, but
Yeah, I have no idea what's like there now. So
well, I thought it would be fun for you just to share, I don't know, kind of what you do with Concours events, how you operate, what you offer, but then also maybe there's some fun, interesting behind the scenes stories. You don't have to spill any secrets or anything, but I know you see a lot of fun and interesting things in the collector car world. I thought this would be a fun forum to just kind of have a conversation about some of that.
well, I guess to answer your question as to what do I do is I cover up what's going on behind me. I mean, basically, Paul Sable once said, my job is to be the swan gliding smoothly across the water, all the while paddling like hell underneath.
So you're
And
the smooth facade that keeps, at least appearance wise, everything moving. So you have to kind of roll with what's going on behind you and make it look seamless to the
right,
audience attending the concours.
that's right. There's either someone in my ear via yelling at me next to me, or in my ear with an earphone telling me what to do, what's happening, what problem is going on. And my job is to basically cover that up so that no one sees it and just keep things going smoothly. So if the wrong car comes up, it's the wrong award has come up. The presenter is not there. The presenter is there, and they want to grab the microphone out of my hand. I mean, my job is to basically keep things running on pace and smoothly so that the audience never has an idea of what's going on in front of me. In addition to that, the other thing that my job is to do is to make sure that everybody that comes up in front of me gets their 50 seconds of fame or whatever that amount of time is. So no matter how bad the car might be, how good the car might be, the owner is errant, not paying attention with what's going on. Again, my job is to make someone, when they come up there, feel like they're the most important person and they've got the best car on the planet sitting in front of me and
Yeah,
get their
and
claim to fame.
so is the title like MC, Master of Ceremonies? Is it, what is the title?
Yeah, that's basically what it is MC or Master of Ceremonies. Some places refer to it as Grand Marshal. Other places, the Grand Marshal is a ceremonial person, and that's changed. And, at each event, every time there's an event, and they do their event annually. But I'm one of those three people typically. Yeah.
Yeah, and so for our listeners who have never been to a Concours event, obviously it's what I would consider a higher end car show where the car selection process, it isn't you show up with your car and you pay $20 and you get a placard, you get a little thing to put in the
Flash plaque.
window, you're right, and it's usually it's by invitation only, and it's there's a vetting process. Typically, it's a judge show where you have judges flying in from around the country to judge it. And then obviously, you as the master of ceremonies, we're talking about when the cars are driven up sometimes to the award stage and you're there, making sure it all goes smoothly. You're talking about the car, talking about the owner, talking about the award. Is that all correct?
I think it's fair to say you hit the nail on the head with one exception. I think the other thing to be added there is the classes of cars that are on display are typically curated. So you have, let's say they have a brass class or they have a classic car class from X years to X years, or that class is hitting on a specific thing. Then another concours may do 100 years of Chrysler because that's big right now because everybody's got Chrysler on their mind for 100 years. Or they have an Exner class of cars, or they have Chrysler Woodies are going to be at Town and Countries are going to be at Pebble Beach this year. There's going to be so it's a specific class or a specific group of cars that are on display at that particular event or location.
So I
So
want to
yes,
do
they are by invitation is really the big difference.
right, right, yeah. And now, how many Concours events do you typically attend a year, or Concours like that?
I typically do somewhere about 12 to 15 as MC.
Wow, holy cow. You are in
Yeah.
demand, my friend.
Well, I
Wow.
wouldn't go so far as to say that is, there's only so many people that do this.
So
I mean,
someone asked me,
and not to take away from anybody else who does it, I have the fortunate ability to be able to talk about pretty much any car that comes up in front of me.
right.
It
Yeah.
just comes out of my head somewhere. There's this information rattling around in there, and suddenly I have a 1926 Chrysler in front of me, and the next car that comes up is a 1951 Cadillac. I mean, whatever it is, and I in my head have something that I make come out and hopefully sound coherent.
Yeah, and hopefully spot on and all that kind of
Or
fun.
as I say to everybody, I make it up as I go.
So with going to so many Concours events, give me your top three. Like if you were to say, if you've never been to a Concours event, you want to go to one once in your life, let's just call it the average car enthusiast. I know everybody knows about Pebble Beach, but the cost to get in there is so expensive. Um, let's take cost out of it. What would be your top three?
It no longer exists.
What would that be?
For 9 years, we did the elegance at Hershey,
Oh yeah.
and not patting myself on the back, but I think it was the best show ever.
Why?
Sorry, Pebble Beach. Sorry, Amelia Island. Sorry, anybody else that's thinks they're in the running. We just did it right. The cars all stood on their own. They competed not in a class. They competed for awards, and the awards were given more of merit. We paraded every car on the field because the field was 75 cars max. It was very contained in a lovely area. And I think the other thing is, if I may pat myself on the back, we knew how to throw a party. And there
Mm,
was a party Friday night, Saturday night, and Sunday night. And what Concours event has a waiting list for their dinner on Saturday night? I mean, we would have 350 people there and a waiting list of another 50 people to get in because
yeah.
there just wasn't that much any more room in the banquet hall to put people. But it was just it was prior to that, we had a cocktail party prior to the dinner on Saturday night. It was an elegant hotel. The hotel was beautiful. The grounds were beautiful. It just was a really neat event. And that was definitely my favorite. And, it was hard to say no after we did it 9 years to stop doing it.
Yeah.
We went
Yeah,
out
people
on a
don't
high. Yeah.
realize what a huge effort it is to put on these shows. I know a friend of mine, Dan Bosch, he's starting up DeVue Concours on across the river in Cincinnati, and I've just seen what he's had going on behind the scenes. And honestly, he asked my help, and I'm like, I'm staying away because I got too much to do as is. I volunteer with the Cincinnati Concours. I can't imagine. First, also, it's an hour drive for meetings, but yeah, let's say we don't have a DeLorean time machine right now. So what would be a current two or
I'm not
three?
going to answer that question because that
Oh,
is that is a great way to get myself in trouble.
that is true. I didn't think
I mean,
about that.
I'm loyal to a lot of people, and they're
Yeah.
very loyal to me, and I would not rank the events because of that. And it's purely for political reasons,
No, that's fine. I appreciate
not
the
because
transparency.
I mean, there are a lot of great events out there, and a lot like the event you and I were talking about at Cop's Home. That's a lot like the Elegance. It's 75 or 80 cars. It's contained. It's a very pretty setting. Um, it's a very nicely well organized, well run event.
Yeah, and I'll just make my own observations, maybe. From looking from a entry level or auto enthusiast has never been, like everybody says Pebble. I love Pebble. I think it's great, but the massive cost to do it, I had never done it till about 5 years ago or so. And on some of the stuff, to me, the biggest, best event is their countryside tour. You get out there at 5:30 in the morning and you watch the cars get unloaded and you see them start up and go on the line. And the hard part about like Pebble is the crowd, so by 11 o'clock, you're almost shoulders. And I would say that for Amelia, back when I would go to Amelia, it was like shoulder to shoulder after a little while, which is difficult. Um, and I think some of the concours are losing that personal touch a little bit. Just was at Keeneland Concours, and Tom and Connie Jones they're so hospitable. I saw Tom, he's working his butt off. I'm in a t-shirt and shorts, and he's in pants and a tie, and I see him, and the first thing he asked me is, "What can I do for you?" And I just yelled back, "What can I do for you?" Because you got a full thing going on here today. So
Right.
no, I do totally appreciate that. Do you ever get tired of, or do you ever feel like the classes need to be spiced up a little bit? Like, do you feel like, all right, it's 100 years of Chrysler, everybody's doing that. Do you feel like, maybe we need to do just a class of 50s fins, which I know some shows have done. Do you think there's an opportunity to get a little bit more creative in some of the classes?
I think that's varies per event. I think there are a lot of people that are creative with their classes. There needs to be variety. And I think what is happening as it is harder and harder to get older cars at an event. I mean, the classic car club crowd, let's be candid, is, probably average age well into their 70s. And people like that are maybe thinking twice about towing a car across the country. I think the other thing that has changed is I don't care how wealthy you are, you look at what it costs to ship a car across country and it's extremely expensive. So you get asked to do 10 events or whatever the number is that year. My gosh, that's a small fortune to you. Figure you're going to send your caretaker or handler who's going to deal with the car to you do flights, shipping, meals, you have to entertain everybody at that time, all the things that are involved in getting a car. It isn't the cost of the shipping, it's all the ancillary costs that come with that. And I think people have taken a second look at what those costs are, and then the age factor taken in. So concours are faced with, well, it used to be all pre-war cars on the field, or it used to all be all heavy classics. And that isn't the case. So now you have to come up with, okay, I have a Porsche class, I have a sports car class, I have let's say a hybrid class of cars that have European styling with American engines. Maybe I'll feature a designer like Pininfarina or somebody such as that. Maybe you'll feature brass era cars, which are becoming more popular. That's probably the segment of the hobby that's going the other direction in terms of younger people are becoming involved with those cars. But if you want to field brass era cars on your concours event as a class, you pretty much have to involve them in some sort of a tour, because those people like to drive their cars, run their cars, experience their cars. And so you won't have trailer queens that are perfect cars on the field. You'll have a great historical representation, but they're going to be older cars that have been driven and enjoyed. So I think that's good. I don't have a problem with that. I mean, I remember when, everything had to be a perfect car on the field. If it wasn't a 100-point car, what were you doing on a concours field? And I think now we have taken a very different turn, especially since we tend to appreciate preservation cars or original cars more than were once appreciated by the hobby. I think they're very appreciated by the hobby now. And if you're doing a display, who cares if the car is less than perfect that's on the field? You're trying to do a historical representation of what's important. So, you do Hudson, let's say, and you want to feature Hudson. Well, there were a very few coach-built Hudsons, although I shouldn't say that. There were coach-built Hudsons, but if you want to do a historical representation of the cars, you're going to probably get some cars that were driven or enjoyed, and maybe they are not the best cars of the example, but they fit your historical perspective of what it is that you're trying to show and educate your guests that are coming to the event. That was a very long answer. Sorry.
No, that was a very great answer. What were your thoughts when the preservation Bugatti won at Pebble last year?
I wasn't excited about the car.
Okay.
That sounds terrible to say. It was a neat car. It was an interesting car, historically interesting. It was obviously a beautifully preserved example, but I guess I wasn't excited about the car. That's just my opinion. And when you look at cars that have won at Pebble Beach in the past, that certainly was quite a departure in many respects. On the other hand, that's good. And not to beat a dead horse. I mean, I recall the year at the Elegance, we had a car that had been painted in the 40s or 50s. I don't recall when it was. It was an Alfa Romeo. It was a really wild looking car. And there, the judges voted which car they wanted to have as best of show, and they voted that Alpha.
Wow.
And it sent shockwaves, at the
Right.
time, like, oh my gosh, how could you? And then everybody realized that was a good decision. That was the right decision. I think you're going to start seeing post-war cars being winners at major events.
I agree. I think they have to,
It's
honestly.
coming. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the big change that will come next. And that's
Right.
part of the demographic, you know.
Well, and a lot of the concours now have a next generation class, which is really good because you get the young kids in there, and that's the car that they might recognize, or in the JDM cars or whatever, So it's nice to have those classes, or like I think it was at Monterey last year they had the Countachs, like that is much more relevant to the next generation than brass era. But per your note, why do you think young kids are getting into the brass era? Because I noticed that as well.
The whole idea of driving um and experiencing it, it's a experience you don't get in a regular car, let alone, I mean, it's a whole different world. You don't get in, you push a button and go. I mean, there's a whole series of things that have to happen in order to make the car come alive. And I think that kind of tactile or sense is something that's missing for kids. And they see this by virtue of their parents, or more likely their grandparents, who said, you know, do you want to go along? You want to come along for our tour? And the kids are like, yeah. They seem to be very enthusiastic towards this. I don't know why that is, especially since, they're busy playing on their handhelds and their phones and all that kind of stuff. Maybe kids are beginning to see it's okay to kind of time out from that kind of garbage and
All
get
right,
away.
I have a
I
business
mean, that would
idea.
be a real wish on my part if that did happen.
Well,
But
look,
I
I
think I think kids, the parents and the grandparents that own those cars encourage the kids to come along. And it's just like anything else. My generation was don't touch my car and get away. Oh, don't get near my car. I don't want you to scratch my car. Now, when you go to a car show, it's very interesting to see people picking up the little kids and sitting them in the car, or people getting in their car and, they have three kids sitting in the car because they're all getting their picture taken and they're excited. Well, they're being introduced to something. We're allowing them to touch and experience. And, at the end of the day, at the end of the Concours day, boy, it sure is neat when you see somebody giving a little kid a ride in their car.
yeah, yeah.
That's something they're going to take home and tell all their buddies about, that they did, that they're going to have a memory with them forever. And we skipped a whole generation of that. And now we're paying for it.
Yeah, and I totally agree with you. I think I've often said that the more autonomous we become, the more electrified we become, the more people will want the opposite of that. They'll want more engagement, they'll want more loud, they want more noises, more smells, more whatever. And the only
Right.
example I can give recently is I went with a buddy of mine to go grab a bite, and I showed up in my '65 Mustang Fastback, and he showed up in his 2025 911 GTS, which I love, but I had not driven the new one yet. I said, let's switch cars. And we switched cars, and yeah, that Porsche was super fast, but it was too easy. There wasn't any engagement, from a or let me take that back. It was a PDK. It wasn't a manual, like I
Right.
was just like, yeah, this is cool. This is nice. But you get in you have to, hypo fastback with no power steering, you're working a lot harder,
It's a little bit different experience, right?
Yeah. Now, after seeing all these Concours events for so many years, do people seek you out for your advice? Like, hey, what would you do differently about our Concours? Or do you have ideas in your head like, man, I wish someone would do this class or this event or this process or anything like that has popped up over the last few years?
Some events solicit my opinion and my comments. Others do not. And it depends upon who's in charge, who's running the show. and how engaged they want to be. But to answer your question, invariably, I am asked a question of, what would you do if we did this? Or what do you think if we did this? Or any suggestions you might have? I think everybody needs a shtick. Why do you go to one event versus another? I mean, the more they become homogenized and they become similar, the less interesting they are, both
Right.
from a spectator standpoint, and not just, I shouldn't say both, but from a spectator standpoint, an exhibitor standpoint, and a participant, whether they're a judge or me as an MC or whatever. Everybody needs to have a shtick, and they should do something that makes their event different than another.
Yeah, one thing that happened at Moto Miami this year, which I thought was really interesting and very smart, is they asked the RM Sotheby's car specialist, myself included, to help with a class. And so they assigned us, and it was cool because it was an informal way to meet, car owners, car
Sure.
collectors that could potentially become a client one day. So they had our business card, but on top of that, every person had their own concierge, and they had a business card with a phone number they could call at any time.
Right.
And I thought it was a really cool personal touch. And then afterwards, I sent letters out as the class host, handwritten letters to each of the participants, thanking them for being in it. And I'm sure the concierge did something as well. I was like, wow, we're killing them with kindness. And, I was in charge of making sure everybody had water and water bottles and all
Sure.
that kind of stuff. And
Well,
I thought,
that's part of being the class host.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So I thought that was
absolutely.
kill them with kindness, be over available, I guess. What else is going on out there in the concourse world? Where are you up to? Where are you going to next? What are you looking forward to?
That's a really good question. My next thing is, I will not be in Pebble Beach. I'll be in Detroit at Dream Cruise,
Wow.
which is uh, I don't know, it's kind of more blue collar, grassroots, what do you want to call it? But it's a giant car show that is on the streets of Woodward Avenue for 3 days.
Right.
And uh, I've been fortunate enough to be invited with a group of friends who rent a parking lot. And
Nice.
we have everybody with all their collector cars. And there's a caterer that comes in, caters it. And we just sit and watch cars for 3 days and act like a bunch of idiots enjoying cars. I mean, I don't know how else to say it, but it's very non exciting until a really cool car goes by and everybody's like all fired up about that. And that begins the conversation about, oh, I remember, or do you remember this, or what about that, or they only made how many of those, and it just very interesting kinds of conversations that follow. So I'm looking forward to that. That's next. And then September is Radnor Hunt Concours. 2 weeks later is St. Michael's Concours. 2 weeks later is would normally be Chattanooga, but there's no Chattanooga this year. But I'm doing something else in October, and then Hilton Head in November. So I've got a bunch of stuff on the docket coming forward here.
That's awesome. Hopefully, I'll
Yeah.
see you in Hilton. And we're hoping to go down there. So let's talk about Detroit Cruise. I used to work for like Nabisco, and I had a territory up there, and I would schedule my trip during the week of, the Dream Cruise because there's a lot of stuff going on during the week. I've
Yeah.
never actually been to the weekend. And speaking of cars that pass by, the one that passed by that blew me away was I was sitting on a corner having a hot dog, and the Monkey Mobile went by. And seeing that thing at night, with the street
Well,
lights on it coming by, that thing blew me away.
Well, that's funny you mentioned that. You said about Cobshaholm 2 weeks ago. That was Saturday. Sunday, I drove with friends following the Concord to Detroit and emceed the Northville Concord, which is a Concord that's put on, excuse me, a Concord that's put on by all 19 years of age and younger people.
Hmm.
They did a phenomenal job, but they had the Monkey Mobile on their show field. And I said to somebody that I was with, I said, well, you may find this hard to believe, but I know the names of all four monkeys. And they're like, no, you don't. I'm like, well, sadly, I do. That was the era that I grew up. So
All right.
we
Let me
listened
let
to
me
the
let me
monkeys,
try. Davy Jones,
correct?
Mike Nesmith,
Nesmith, right?
Peter
Torque
Torque, and then I forget the last one.
and Dolan's, Mickey Dolan's.
Oh,
The
that's right.
fourth.
Okay. Well, I got 2.5.
Yeah. So it was pretty funny to see that because I remember seeing it as a kid when it was new because it was made out of a GTO.
Yeah.
And going to the auto show and that thing was sitting there and I was just mesmerized by it. And of course, I had an AMT or whoever made the model of it as well that I built and had on the shelf in my bedroom. So
Can you imagine going down Woodward in that with like 6 of your buddies? Because you can
oh
hold a
my
lot
God,
of
it
people in
would be
there.
way too cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that would be awesome. So, well, awesome, Bill. Well, thank you for being on the Collector Car Podcast again. I hope to see you on the road here soon. And next time we'll get together, we'll talk more about some more cars.
Sounds good. Always fun. Thanks for having me.
Pack my tux and my microphone, flying first class. This lawn's my throne, from Pebble Beach to Florida shore. Calling out names like an auction floor. Chrome so clean, it could blind the sun. Ferrari, Packard, here they come. Cue the crowd, hold your applause. I'm the ringmaster for rolling applause. I'm the MC coast to coast, judging Jags, raising toasts. Classic curves, concours queens, white gloves, high beams, and polished dreams. From dawn patrol to the final prize, I've seen the best on 4 white walls ride. Got a cue card, but I improvise. When the carburetor coughs, I ad-lib wise. A 30s doozy with a rumble seat gets a round of applause in both my feet. Poodle skirts, straw hats, champagne flutes, chrome hubcaps and tailored suits, sunburned cheeks and a windswept tie. I'm the man with the mic and the gleam in my eye. I'm the MC coast to coast, judging Jags, raising toast. Classic curves, concours queens, white gloves, high beams, and polished dreams. From dawn patrol to the final prize, I've seen the best on 4 white walls ride. Concours lights. When the best of show rolls up my way, I got one job, make their moment stay. So here's to the classics, the rare, the divine, to every bright finish and perfect line. If it's gleaming, purring, or just been found, I'm the voice that makes it Concours crown bound.